Hello students, in today's lecture we'll be studying your first order systems. Now in your first order systems we need to first classify the different types of systems on the basis of the model. Now there are different models available like linear model, non-linear models, you have white box, black box models, you have static models, dynamic models, you have then time domain models, and then you have frequency models, and then there is one more category of models which is called distributed systems and lumped parameter systems. Now let's study what are these lumped parameter and distributed systems. Now first let's me tell you what is lumped parameter system. Lumped parameter systems are the one which are the function of time only. They do not depend upon the spatial positions, that is space positions. They are independent of the positions, they are independent of x, y and z. Clear? Now for example, like in a stir tank reactor, we assume that the temperature and the concentration along x, y and z is uniform. Clear? So that means the concentration and the temperature and the concentration in the system will change only according to the time. Clear? So a lumped of or the average may be taken as the representative for the entire content of the material in the tank, which also makes the model much more simplified. Whereas in distributed parameter systems, any parameter, it depends upon the position as well as the time. So that means the function, the temperature or the concentration in the tank, it varies radially, it varies axially, and it varies along the z direction also, radial direction, angular direction, or it also varies with the time. Clear? So such type of models are called distributed parameter models, where the function is dependent upon time as well as position. So such type of models, they normally give rise to partial differential equations. That means any function can be a function of t plus along with the function of the position, del f by del y, plus it can be del f by del x. Clear? So that means the function is dependent upon these things, whereas in lumped parameter model it will be only a function of time. So lumped parameter model gave rise to your ordinary differential equations. So this is the clear difference between lumped parameter systems and distributed parameter systems. Now moving further, now let's start with your first order systems. Now what are first order systems? First order systems are those systems who are basically represented by this differential equation, ordinary differential equation, that is a1 d1 by dt plus a naught y equal to b times ft. So any system whose dynamics is represented by this first order ordinary differential equation. Now if over here I am concentrating ordinary, means they are only variable with respect to time. So these examples are basically for your lumped parameter systems. These are lumped parameter systems. Clear? So wherever you're going to have a partial one, that is, they are basically distributed systems. So normally in your course we'll be dealing with only the ordinary differential equation. That means the parameter, that is y, the output, that is y, is dependent upon the time only. So any system whose dynamics is represented by this equation, let's say equation A, is called your first order systems, where y is the output of the system or the dependent variable, you can see over here the dependent variable, and x is the input, we normally say input or forcing function, or it's also called your independent variable. Now in this case, if suppose a naught is not 0, if a naught is not 0, then this equation can be represented as a1 by a naught dy by dt plus y equal to b by a naught into f of t. Now this a by a naught, let's say, is represented by tau p, and this b by a naught is represented by kp. Now tau p is called as time constant of a process, time constant of a process, and let's say it has units as that of time, let's say over here seconds, and this is called as gain. Gain can be they can also be called as steady state gain or static gain. They have different terminologies, so basically it's a gain. Clear? Now further, so that means this equation can be represented as tau p dy by dt plus y equal to kp into f times t. Clear? Now taking the Laplace and considering that the initial conditions are 0, so what do we have? We have tau ps into ys plus ys equal to kp into f of s. So ys upon f of s can be written as kp upon tau ps plus 1. So this is basically it's a very important, it's called as transfer function of first order, transfer function of first order. It's also called, the other name to this is also called as first order lag or linear lag. Clear? So that means any equation which is represented by this first order, its transfer function is represented as this. Now how do you define transfer function? I'll give you the definition later on of transfer function later on, but remember this, for any first order system whose equation is represented by a, its transfer function is represented by this term, that is kp upon tau ps plus 1. Now so over here in the previous slide, we know that we have taken a naught as not equal to 0. Now suppose if a naught is 0, if a naught is 0, so what do we have? Your equation is basically dy by dt equal to b by a1 times f of t, your equation a. This equation, you take a naught as 0, that means this term is 0. So what do you have? Dy by dt as b times ft, that is what I've written over here. Now take the Laplace of this thing. So what do we have? Simply ys upon fs as k dash over s, where k dash p is nothing but b by a1. Okay? So this is your pure capacitance case. It's a case of a pure capacitance, capacitivity, pure case of pure capacitivity or pure integrator. So that's the transfer function of a pure capacitance. Now let's do the modeling of your first order system. Now for modeling of first order system, the very first example which we're going to consider is your mercury thermometer. Mercury thermometer is the best example of your first order systems. We'll see how they termed as your first order system, but before we start with your modeling of this mercury thermometer, now let's consider that this is the surrounding which is having a temperature X, and let's say this is the thermometer which is dipped inside this, and the thermometer is showing a reading Y. Now when this thermometer is kept in this surrounding temperature X for a certain period of time, we notice that the thermometer reading will be same as that of the surrounding reading, right? That means we can say that the steady state has been achieved. That means the thermometer is showing the same reading as that of the surrounding. Now suppose this thermometer, this thermometer is taken out from this surrounding and kept in this beaker which is having a different temperature as that of the surrounding. Let's say this is now, instead of X, it is X dash. Instead of X, it is X dash. Now that means you have changed the surrounding temperature. So what will happen? That means when the surrounding temperature of the thermometer changes, obviously this reading also changes. Now if the surrounding temperature has been decreased, so then what happens? The thermometer reading will decrease. Now if the surrounding temperature has been increased, so what will happen? The thermometer reading will increase. Now this is what we need to study in this. So with that means how do the thermometer reading varies when there is change in the surrounding temperature. Now before that, there are certain assumptions which we need to written before we proceed with this. So the first assumptions, number one, okay, before that let me write that let me show that this is, let's say, the mercury. I am drawing a cross sectional area. Let's say this is the mercury, and this is the your glass bulb in which the mercury is kept, and let's say this is the film resistance, film surrounding the mercury, film resistance or film surrounding the mercury. Now there are certain assumptions to this. Now the first assumption is all the heat resistance resides in the film surrounding the glass. All the heat resistance is in the film. That means mercury and the glass, they do not offer any sort of heat resistance. So whatever the heat resistance is offered, it is being offered by the film. Clear? That means mercury and glass do not provide any sort of resistance to the heat. Second, all the capacity to store heat energy, all the capacity to store heat or thermal energy is in mercury. That means whatever the amount of heat transferred occurs, the entire amount will be stored by the mercury. There is no we assume that mercury takes all the heat, glass do not take any heat. Clear? Third assumption is the glass valve or the glass bulb do not expand or contract. That means if we change the surrounding temperature, if we increase the temperature or if we decrease the temperature, the glass neither expands nor contract. It remains as it is. So you see over here what we have done is we have clubbed certain properties in certain things. That means whatever the heat resistance is there, that is taken by the film, right? That is called lumping. All the capacity to store heat will be there in the mercury. That means jitni bhi, whatever the temperature, because of the surrounding temperature changes, whatever the heat transfer occurs, that will be purely by the mercury only. Glass do not provide, film resistance do not provide any. Clear? So the entire thing is stored in the mercury. The third is the glass or the bulb do not expand or contract. Now based upon this thing, let's analyze this. Now suppose initially at steady state we said that the thermometer and the surroundings, they are at the same temperature, right? Let's say write steady state initially, when the thermometer was kept in the surrounding for a long period of time. So thermometer reading, that is Ys, is same as the surrounding reading. Now at time t equal to 0, the thermometer is subjected to change in surrounding temperature. That means now you have changed the surrounding temperature. So our question is, how does Y varies? That means thermometer reading varies when there is change in X. That means if you change the surrounding temperature, how does thermometer varies? Now we have assumed that on the basis of the assumptions. Now if the surrounding temperature changes, obviously what will happen? Initially we'll have some heat transfer occurring. So we're gonna apply your unsteady state energy balance, because obviously when X changes, obviously when the temperature varies, so there will be a heat transfer. Heat will be transferred towards the mercury. Clear? So we're going to apply the energy balance. Now energy balance is your input rate minus the output rate should be equal to rate of accumulation. Now we are not assuming that, we are assuming that there is no heat generated on its own. So whatever the transfer is occurring, it's purely because of the surrounding temperature. Now how much heat has been transferred? So H input, let's say it will be HA into X minus Y. Initially it was X, now the surrounding has been changed, so the difference becomes X minus S. Delta T, that is HA delta T. There is no output, there is only input to the thermometer. Now rate of accumulation, how much heat has been stored in the mercury, that will be mCp delta T, mc dy by dt. Now over here H is your heat transfer coefficient, units watt per meter square per Kelvin. A, cross sectional area of the bulb. X, surrounding temperature. Y, thermometer reading. M, mass of the mercury in the bulb. C, heat capacity of the mercury. Heat capacity of the mercury. And what is dy by dt? Rate of change of temperature, thermometer temperature with respect to time. Clear? So we have HA X minus Y equal to mc dy by dt. Now let's say this is number 1. Under steady state, this can be written as HA XS minus YS equal to 0. Clear? So 1 minus 2. Let's subtract 1 minus 2. So what we have is, we have HA as common. We'll write x minus xs minus y minus ys equal to mc dy by dt, or let me write it as d of y minus ys. Obviously if you open the brackets, it become mc dy by dt minus mc dys by dt. Now dys by dt is nothing but 0, so I've written in intentionally in this form, let you know what is this. Now let's introduce the variables. Now suppose for x minus xs, let me write a capital X, and for y minus ys, let me write capital Y. So your equation 3 becomes HA capital X minus capital Y equal to MC D capital Y by dt. Clear? Upon rearranging, so what do we have? We have MC dy by dt plus HAY equal to HAX capital X. Now what is this? This is of first order, so the thermometer behaves in the first order. Clear? So similar to what we have initially, what we have over here, that is equation A. Clear? So thermometer reading is also, thermometer dynamics is also first order. Now taking the Laplace of this thing, of equation A. Now before that, we know that it is mc dy by dt plus HA capital Y equal to X. Into HAX, sorry, into HAX. Now if you divide this equation by HA, if you divide this by HA, so what do we have? We have MC by HA, and what is this? Let's say this is your time constant, so tau. So this equation becomes tau dy by dt plus y equal to capital X. Taking the Laplace assuming that initial conditions are 0, that is ys is 0 and xs is 0, initial conditions are 0. So what do we have? We have tau s ys plus capital Ys is equal to xs, and upon rearranging we have ys upon xs as 1 upon tau s plus 1. So this is the transfer function of mercury thermometer, or mercury thermometer. It can be for any given thermometer, and where tau is nothing but mc by HA. It depends upon the mass in the bulb, the specific heat of the fluid which has been taken, that is obviously the specific heat of mercury, specific heat of CCl4, specific heat of any ethanol, alcohol. It's different. H is the heat transfer area, heat transfer coefficient, and A is the cross sectional area. So obviously if you see if there are two different bulbs, the cross sectional area will be different, the heat transfer area will be different. So obviously for two bulbs, two thermometers with different bulbs will have different value of tau. Clear? So if you see this thing, so this is the transfer function of mercury thermometer. Now let us define what is transfer function. Now transfer function, if you clearly see over here, what is this ys? Ys is basically, your ys is deviation, Laplace of deviation of thermometer reading, and xs is Laplace of deviation in surrounding temperature. Clear? Because if you see in the previous slide, this is, we have taken this condition, this part we have taken, this thing. So this has been done intentionally because x minus xs is the deviation from the steady state. So after steady state, if you change the surrounding temperature, how does that vary? And initially the thermometer was initially at having some initial value, that is steady state. So after changing the surrounding, how does that varies? So it is y minus ys. So these are basically your called deviation variables. Clear? So Laplace, or sorry, transfer function is defined as Laplace form of deviation variables of output to Laplace of deviation variables of input. This is your transfer function definition. Let's write over here. So transfer function is nothing but it's a ratio of Laplace of deviation variables of output to Laplace of deviation variables of input parameters. So what was the output parameter? Output parameter was our thermometer reading, that is ys. What was the input parameter? The surrounding reading, that is xs. So what are these? These are deviation variables, that is y minus ys. These are deviation variables, x minus xs, and if you take their Laplace, it will give form to your transfer function. Further, now time constant, remember time constant depends upon these values mc by ha. So no two thermometers will have same time constant because of these values. Clear? And further, the gain is 1 in this case, because if you compare with the standard form, if you compare this with the standard form was Kp upon tau s plus 1. So Kp steady state gain for thermometer is considered as 1. Further, now let's see how the surrounding temperature changes. Now suppose my surrounding temperature varies by this variable. This is called step function. That means initially, let's say my surrounding is at 30 degrees, suppose, and now I have changed it from, initially it is at 30 degree, at time t equal to 0 I changed this 30 to 35. So that means the surrounding has been changed by 5 degree. So this is that step. So this is your 5 ut, step up. Clear? So now suppose if the surrounding changes by a ut, so how does your thermometer varies? Now we know that the transfer function of a thermometer is ys upon xs, which is 1 upon tau s plus 1. xt is aut. So what will be xs? It will be a upon s. Obviously the Laplace of this is a remains a, ut is 1 by s, so a by s. So substituting the value of xs in this, so we have ys is nothing but a by s into tau s plus 1. Clear? I can even further rearrange this. Let me write it in the standard form, a tau s into s plus 1 by tau. Now doing the partial fractions, this can be again simplified as c1 by s plus c2 upon s plus 1 by tau. Partial fractions, put the solve it for values of c1 and c2. Now let's see, I've solved it. Now C1 comes out to be A and C2 comes out to be minus A. So therefore your ys becomes A by S and the other one is minus A upon S plus 1 by tau. Clear? Now if you take the Laplace inverse, so capital YT is nothing but A 1 by S Laplace inverse is 1, or you can even write ut. So let me write 1 only, and minus A 1 upon S plus A e raised to power minus A, so it has become e minus t by tau. So if you take the Laplace inverse of this thing, you have this term. Now A is common, A can be taken out, so it is e minus t by tau, that is capital YT in the deviation form. In a thermometer reading it will be YT, which is ys plus A times 1 minus e minus t by t. So that means initially the thermometer was having a steady state value. Once you change the surrounding, once you change this parameter over here, once you change the surrounding temperature, so that surrounding temperature varies by this. That means after steady state the variation will occur with this given formula, that is A into A times 1 minus e t by tau. Now let me plot this graph over here. Let's say this is t by tau, and let me write it as capital YT by A. That means I'm considering this part. I'm plotting this equation, y capital Y by A into t by tau. So if you plot this thing, this plot will come out to be something like this. That means it will reach the value 1. Clear? So this is the plot of this representation. So that means you can clearly see, let me show you in a different way. Let's say this was the surrounding temperature. Red is showing the surrounding temperature. At certain, initially it was having 30 degree. Now we're given a step input of, let's say, 40 degree. Clear? So this is the surrounding variation, and with respect to this surrounding, how does the thermometer changes? Initially this thermometer is also at 30 degree. Once you change the surrounding to 40, so the thermometer varies in this way, and after a certain period of time it will reach your 40 degree. This is this is your thermometer reading, and this was your surrounding temperature reading. So that is what we have represented over here. Now over here you need to remember one thing. Now suppose if initial rate is maintained, you can clearly see initially the rate is very fast, but as the time proceeds the rate becomes slower and slower, and it becomes horizontal, it becomes slow. So that is what it is. Initially if the thermometer is at steady state, let's say 30 degree, once you suddenly change the temperature to 70, what will happen? Initially you will notice that the thermometer will quickly move up in the capillary, and as it starts to reach towards the 70 degree, or as it starts to reach the surrounding temperature, the increase of the mercury in the capillary, it slows down, and it slowly it reaches towards the maximum value, that is 70 degree. Or over here if you notice, initially it was at 30, now if you change it to 40, the thermometer reading initially starts at a very higher rate, and then slowly by the time it reaches close towards the surrounding temperature, the rate of heat input becomes slow, and it finally reaches the maximum value, that is 40 degree. Clear? Now if the initial rate is maintained, that is, if this thing is maintained, if the initial rate is maintained, then you'll see then you'll see that it will reach its maximum value. At t equal to 1. That is, this is mathematically also possible. That is, if now let me write for this thing. Let me remove first this part. Okay, now let me modify this given equation. Now can I write like yt by a as 1 minus e minus t by tau? Clear? Now if I differentiate this thing with respect to t by tau and put the limits t by tau approaches 0, so what do we have? This will come out to be d by t by tau of y by a. This will come out to be 1. So that means if the initial rate is maintained, this yt will reach its maximum value. That is, maximum value over here is 1. That is at time t equal to tau. Clear? Now what is t equal to? Now when you put t by tau as 1 in this expression, so 1 minus e minus 1, this becomes 0.632. That means when t by tau and you can say yt by a and yt by a, if t by tau is 1, this value is 0.632, and if t by tau is 2, that means e raised to power minus 2, so this becomes 0.86, and if t by tau is 3, this becomes 0.95, and if this is value is 4, this becomes 0.99. So from here t by tau is 1 means we have the definition of time constant. That is, time constant is that time when the response, this is the response basically, when the thermometer response reaches 63.2% of the maximum value. Now what was the maximum value? 1. So 63.2 of 1 will be 0.632. And when is this possible? When t by tau is 1. So from here time constant can be defined as that value of time when the response, now what is the response? This graph, when the response reaches 63% of the ultimate value or the maximum value or the final steady state value. This is the final steady state value. So how do you define time constant? So this is how we define the time constant. Time constant is that time when the response reaches 63.2% of the maximum value. When somebody asks you what will be 2 time constant, so 2 time constant will be defined from this equation. It is that time when the response reaches 86% of the final value. What is 3 time constant? When the response reaches 95% of the maximum value. And what is 4 time constant? When the response reaches 99% of the maximum value. Clear? So this is how we define your time constant. Moving further, now suppose instead of step, now your surrounding changes impulse. That means what you do is, this is the surrounding and this is the thermometer, and over here we have a beaker kept at a different temperature. Now for impulse, so how does impulse work? What you did is, you picked up this thermometer from the surrounding, dipped in this and then taken out. Suddenly you dipped it and taken out. That is the impulse. That means you try to change the surrounding temperature for a few fractions of a second suddenly. That is impulse. That is, you picked up this thermometer from the surrounding, dipped in the different temperature environment, and then taken out. Suddenly you taken out. Clear? That is, it's kept in a different temperature for a few fractions of second. That is impulse. Now what will be the Laplace of this? Now Laplace of impulse is 1. So yt upon xs, transfer function of thermometer. Now we know that xs is 1. So what will be ys? Ys will be nothing but 1 upon tau s plus 1, or this can be written as 1 upon tau s plus 1 by tau, and if you take the Laplace of this, you have yt, which will be 1 by tau e minus t by tau. So this what's happened. So the response, how does the thermometer changes? This is what, sorry, this is the surrounding reading at time t equal to 0. You have changed. So how does the thermometer varies? Now thermometer initially reaches a very high value, and then it starts to move downwards and try to reach, and this plot is represented by this line, this response. So this is how the impulse function works. That means what? Obviously you physically witness when you suddenly change the thermometer reading. Initially it will try to reach over here in a quick fraction of second, and then you take it out. So initially it will increase, it starts to increase, but when you take out, again it will try to reach towards its surrounding temperature. So this is the behavior of the thermometer in a impulse in the impulse environment. Clear? Now the third case is if the surrounding varies sinusoidally. That means now the surrounding temperature is varying sinusoidally. So in that case, now we know that xt is a sin omega t. What is the Laplace of this? It's a, as it is, sin omega t will be omega upon s square plus omega square, and we know the transfer function of the thermometer is ys upon xs, which is tau s plus 1. Now substitute this value of xs over here. So what do we have? Ys is a omega s square plus omega square into 1 by tau over s plus 1 by tau. Clear? This can be simplified as c1s over s square plus omega square plus c2 as s plus 1 by tau. On partial fraction, you can calculate the value of c1 and c2. I'll give you the values of c1 and c2. Your c1 comes out to be minus c2, which comes out to be minus a by tau omega. Clear? So once you have the values of c1 and c2, substitute over here in this and take the Laplace inverse. So I'm writing the direct expression. So Laplace inverse comes out to be a omega tau e minus 1 by t by tau over tau square omega square plus 1 minus a omega tau square omega square plus 1 cos of omega t plus a upon tau square omega square plus 1 into sine of omega t. So this is what we have. Now over here, if you see this expression, this part, only the second part, now it's similar to this thing. Let's say p cos a plus q sine a can be written as r sine of a plus phi. where r is nothing but under root of p square plus q square, and phi is tan inverse p by q. Clear? So this entire expression can be written in this form, that is r sin omega t. So your this part, that is the secondary part, can be rearranged and it can be written as a over tau square omega square plus 1 into sine of omega t plus phi, where phi is tan inverse minus omega tau. Clear? Now you know this is p, this is q. You can take the p square plus q square under root, you can calculate r. So r comes out to be this, and phi will be nothing but tan inverse p by q, that is this term. Clear? So now this entire expression can be replaced by this thing. So finally your yt can be written as a omega tau e minus t by tau upon tau square omega square plus 1 plus a under root of tau square omega square plus 1 into sine omega t plus phi, where phi is tan inverse tau omega. Clear? Now at steady state, that is t should reach infinity at steady state, this term vanishes because e raised to power infinity becomes 0. So finally at steady state yt comes out to be a under root of tau square omega square plus 1 sine of omega t plus phi. Now what do you notice over here? The response is also sinusoidal in nature, that means thermometer also shows sinusoidal nature. This was the input and this is the output. So input was a sin omega t, a sin omega t, and the output is again a sin omega t but some other terms. And that means if you compare the amplitude, if you compare the constants of both input and output, you can see the output amplitude is smaller than the input amplitude. The output amplitude, that is this is the amplitude, the output amplitude is smaller than the input amplitude by a factor of 1 over tau square omega square plus 1. And second, there in sine, this was in the input it was sin omega t, but in the output we have sin omega t plus phi. This phi is known as phase angle, and this defines the lag in the system. That means if this is the sinusoidal nature of the surrounding, the input varies in this way. So this variation in the peak is that lead, and that that lag, and that lag is represented by this phase angle, which is represented as tan inverse tau omega minus tau omega. Clear? So this is, so you can see if the input is sinusoidal in nature, the output is also sinusoidal in nature, but there is the only variation is the amplitude of input is smaller than the amplitude of the output is smaller than the amplitude of the input. Further, the output lags the input by an angle phi. Let me show you graphically again. If this is the input, the output will have a smaller amplitude. Clear? The output is having a smaller amplitude in comparison to input by a factor of this term, that is tau square omega square plus 1. Further, the output lags the input by an angle phi, that is again minus tan inverse tau omega. Clear? So that's it with the dynamic behavior of the thermometer. Now we can clearly revise again. We studied what are distributed and lumped parameter systems. We studied the behavior of the first order systems and their transfer function represented by this, that is Kp upon tau s plus 1. Then we took the example, very first example of the first order system, that is mercury thermometer, and on the basis of the steady analysis we defined the transfer function of the thermometer, which is 1 upon tau s plus 1, where tau depends upon these parameters, that is mass, capacity, heat capacity of the fluid, H and A. Clear? And then for different input conditions, different forcing conditions, for step, how does the thermometer behaves, for the impulse, how does the thermometer behaves, and for sinusoidally, how does the thermometer behaves. Clear? Now in this next lecture we're gonna take more physical cases, physical examples of first order system. Now if you have any query related to this, you're most welcome to ask me with the email ID given at the starting. Thank you so much.